I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to start with a moment of silence. I'd like to start with public comment. Anyone wishing to, from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address. Seeing none, we'll close this portion of the meeting of public comment. Commissioners, I know you were at the Veterans Day parade. That was a really nice parade. Large turnout. Rain held off till it was pretty much over. Leavenworth should be pretty proud of their Veterans Day parade and honoring their veterans the way we do in this community. Mr. Lawford, do we have any administrative business, or would you like to do the canvassing of the votes under administrative business?
We just have a few items of administrative business we'd like to go ahead and take care of, if it's okay. Okay. The first one being we had solicited for audit proposals. We sent out 6 direct requests to firms that do municipal audits. We advertised in the newspaper, and we received responses. We reviewed them.
How many?
And we received we actually received 4 responses. 2 responses that provided proposals and 2 responses that said at this time they were unable to do it. So we actually had 4 responses. Only 2 were responses to provide services. Of those 2, one is our current audit firm and one is another audit firm, Mize and Hauser Company. They're based out of Lawrence. And their proposal was the lowest price by about $10,000 between the 2. They're a very reputable firm. They do several municipalities and counties in the state and also several school districts in this state. So I believe it's the clerk's intention to recommend them. And if you have any questions for her, she's here as well.
How often do you recommend switching auditing firms? Is it a good idea? How many years?
We have set this up for 3 years with an option of 2 additional years. That's the way we set this one up. Okay. Our last one, it's the same way we had set that one up also.
Okay. So
This document we received this morning, did they did you write this document up, or did they write this document?
They wrote it up.
I haven't had a chance to read over all of it yet. I have some concerns with it, and do we have to take care of this morning?
If you have any concerns, we can certainly hold off. The reason we wanted to go ahead is we just had the one meeting this week, but if you would like to review it further, I also have the proposal that they sent in, that Mize and Hauser sent in for the county's audit purposes, which also includes the single audit. You can certainly review that. I can certainly get each of you a copy of the actual proposal. The engagement letter that they send in is just pretty much an engagement letter that's issued to any municipality or school district. The closest county that Mize, Hauser and Company have is Jefferson County. I did check with the clerk there. Mize and Hauser has been there audit firm for several years. They've been very happy with them. Something that I was concerned about was the timeliness, because, you know, with our bond issues, it's very important that we get our audit turned in and filed by the 1st of July or June 30th. So I did check with Linda Buttram, the clerk there, and she's never had any trouble with the timeliness. She said the first year they are in-house quite a bit more than previous years after that, which is very expected with any firm, any new firm that we get in. I did check with that one other school district also, and they felt that they were a very reputable firm, been very happy with them. So, but certainly, Bob, if you want to do some personal checking or if you want to look at the proposal, we can do that.
Would you like a copy of both of them?
I would.
Both of them to compare?
I
Yeah.
can
So when
certainly
do you
do
want,
that.
when do we want to do that?
The next meeting.
Next
Monday.
week? Monday, okay. Now I'm
I'll
gonna
get
ask-
you those this afternoon then,
I'm going to ask you a different question.
okay?
You know, I always say, is it in the budget? Now, is it in the budget to want to save 10,000?
We budgeted around 45.
That's for humor. You know?
Oh, it's in the budget.
Just hold off, I got a place for that 10,000 here later on in the meeting. All right. We can recycle that money.
Okay. Yep. So that's Monday, very good.
Okay. The other item we had, this board had heard a request from the 27 committee for looking into and asking us for funds for up to $500,000. And I've met with the clerk. We have reviewed the budget and the reserves, and we're at this time unable to identify anywhere that we would have $500,000 available, if it's the intention of the board. And we have not received a formal agreement from the 27 committee, but if that is something that moves forward, I'd just like to, right now, we would be looking at issuing additional debt probably as part of the sales tax to do that.
How would, part of the sales tax, how would that?
Economic development would be the,
That's a stretch.
well,
You're going with economic development.
well, that is the approach that they presented us with.
Oh, I was going to say, because that is not economic development.
Just saying, right now, we do not have the $500,000 available.
That's
Well,
correct.
my thought is, it is economic development. Anytime you can bring people into the community, you're doing something economically, and that would be bringing a whole lot of people in. The other thing is, I know how government can come up with money. Now, that's moving it around, and I do not want to get into micromanaging how we move money around, but it can be done, and I have great confidence in staff to be able to move money for when we need it now, from when we need it in the future, and where we can come up with 500 if they come up with their part of the agreement. So, just a thought, that's one person's thought. It takes two people to have that thought, and if not, I can go on and talk about.
I thought part of your support was to see if other cities would contribute.
That is definitely not other cities. Lansing doesn't, I don't think, care about it.
Well,
but they should, because they get a lot of houses built out there. So it wouldn't hurt to approach them, but it's definitely, as you say, we mentioned that.
I don't think your intent, what I voted for, was that we was going to fund the whole thing.
Well, if the city does not have enough futuristic thoughts in their mind, and sometimes they don't, because they didn't care to look into Steamship Arabia and other things that they have screwed up on, I wouldn't have a problem with going for the full amount. But that's just me. I pay commercial taxes, and I know any place that anytime I get something in here to help me, that I think it's a good idea. So, but we can get to that. I don't know, have we mentioned that to the city of Leavenworth and Lansing yet?
Well, my understanding was the 27 committee was supposed to be meeting with them and giving the same presentation to them. I don't know that they were asking them for money, but they were giving them the same presentation.
Right, Dr. Shove was going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it for administrative business.
Okay. We want to go on and do the election canvass.
Fine with me.
All right.
You will need to make a motion to go into the Board of Canvassers.
I'll make that motion to go into the Board of Canvassers for the past election, school board election,
City and school.
city school.
Got a motion and a second. Voting.
Aye.
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 The last time when we did the canvass, we did it a little bit differently. I do have each of the poll books, which will have to be signed, but I also have corresponding reports that indicate that each one of these poll books that the election worker signed in does ballots back. So I will go through each polling place and let you know the number of people that voted. Then we do have some write-ins that we have to consider for Easton City Council and Linwood City Council. There was not enough people that had filed for the empty positions there, so we do have some write-ins. We also did an election for Big Stranger Drainage and Lenape Drainage, and so we will look at that also. So that's what's going to take place today. Overall, we had around a 14% turnout. Leavenworth City, we're going to go through Leavenworth City first. If I just look at the Leavenworth City precincts, they had a 15.73% turnout. Overall, I had a little under 6,000 people that voted out of the 48,000 people in Leavenworth County. So, looking at different statistics across the state, actually we were right in line with what most counties did. Some counties, you know, got as high as 25 or 26%, but most were right in line with the way Leavenworth County voted.
How did that compare to when these elections were held in the spring?
Actually, it was a little bit higher than our last spring election. I don't know if the fall made a difference. I was asked that question quite a few times this year, if I felt that moving the elections from the spring to the fall made a difference. If I look at our percentages, it's up about 2% from 2 years ago spring elections. So I don't think that actually moving the elections for that purpose really made any significant difference.
I know some of the people running for office like it in the fall because of the campaigning weather. Instead of being out in February, March, you know, snow.
I think it can make a difference on who files. When you look at ending a general election in the even-numbered years in November, middle of November, by the time you have your canvass, and then you look at the previous filing deadline, which was probably the 22nd or 23rd of January, when we had the spring elections. That was, you know, 2 months. And a lot of times people aren't even, or voters aren't even thinking about going into that new election cycle. So I do feel that it is a lot easier for candidates when it comes to the filing. So, because now the filing deadline for every election will be June 1st, whether it's a statewide or whether it's the municipal elections.
So are you saying there was a great advantage when we went from 21 to 18 years of age? Well, maybe I should ask the question. How many people know A.L. Murphy? Anybody know A.L. Murphy?
Can't say that.
How about Leon Murphy? How about Audie Murphy? There we go, my God, Audie Murphy. The most decorated man in the history of the Army and the military. Had more awards and medals. He came back from overseas, having been wounded twice. The Legion of Merit and a #1 Distinguished Medal of Honor. Couldn't even vote when he got out of the military. Isn't there a lot of greatness to change? No, there isn't. Somewhere you got to relate to something in the past. But I thought it was interesting. He could not even vote after being shot twice. But you drink, you know, now you drink beer. That's real important. You can smoke cigarettes. That's real important. But people don't get out and vote. What do you have to do? Be insulting? No, that ain't going to help. People, system just doesn't care. Greatest country in the world, and we don't care. We're just going to take it for granted, and it's just going to go on down the hill. So I thought it was interesting. I thought I'd pass that on. You now know who Audie Leon Murphy is. Now, there won't be another, there may be 1,000 people out there who know that. They're in the military. So, I don't know how we get that changed, 14%. Actually, like 14, gives a hair out of there.
If elections were being on your phone, maybe they could text it in.
Oh, text, okay.
Text
Yeah,
their ballots in.
Yeah, we can text.
That's the only way you're going to
Well,
get it.
you know, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a
Well,
long
let's hope
time.
not.
It's going to be a long time before there's online voting due to the security. So,
Well, I think there's a bunch of people pushing it,
well,
so we can get a lot more illegal votes. So
I don't.
thought somebody might be interested in who Leon is. It's actually Audie Murphy, great man. So
All right, so we'll just kind of start at the beginning, which is what we're required to do here. So we had Planners 2, which actually has 5 different precincts in it, 2 at the fort, 1-1, 1-2, and 1-4. They had 173 people vote, 169 were counted, and there were 4 provisionals. We have Leavenworth Public Library. We had 187 people vote, 185 were qualified, 2 provisionals, and we'll go over these provisionals in just a bit. Sacred Heart Parish Center also has 2 precincts in it. They had 154, 153 were qualified with 1 provisional. We had Leavenworth Baptist Church, also 2 precincts. We had 211 people vote, 209 were qualified with 2 provisionals. First Baptist Church in Leavenworth has 3 precincts. We had 217 vote there, 210 qualified, 7 provisionals. Trinity Lutheran Church, also 2 provisionals, or 2 precincts, excuse me. 244 voted, 243 were qualified with 1 provisional. Calvary Baptist Church, 2 precincts. We had 269 people vote there, 265 were qualified, 4 provisionals. Our last precinct in Leavenworth City is Church of the Open Door. It's our biggest precincts, or our biggest polling place there. They had 535 people vote, 529 were qualified with 6 provisionals. So that was our Leavenworth City. We have 4 wards in the city of Lansing. Ward 1, which is the fire station, had 89 people vote, 8 no. Ward 2, Lansing Community Center, which I also, at this election, put the Delaware voters in there. They had 266 qualified, 4 provisional. St. Francis de Sales Church, they had 301, 297 qualified, 3 provisionals. No, 4 provisionals. So that was our Lansing precinct. Easton, which would include 449 School District and Easton City, had 110 people vote, 108 qualified, 2 provisionals.
Where did they vote at?
At St. Lawrence Hall in Easton. Holy Angels Catholic Church, which is the city of Basor, only the city of Basor votes there, had 381 people vote, 380 were qualified, 1 provisional. Basor Township, which is votes at the fire station, would only be for school district, had 87 people vote, 87 people were qualified. Basor Linwood Middle School, which is the Glenwood area, which is also unincorporated, had 174 people vote, 173 qualified, 1 provisional. Bowling High Prairie. Bowling High Prairie Church is also unincorporated. It does have 4 school districts in that township. So we had 132 people vote, 132 were qualified. Several of our polling places throughout the county have more than 1 school district in it. And so the ladies, you know, when we're programming for each one of the school districts, and the voter is handed the corresponding ballot then. Pleasant Ridge Elementary School, Kickapoo Township, had 93 people vote, 93 people qualified. Reno Township Fire Station, they also had 4 different school districts there because we have 491 that comes in from Douglas County and 497 that come in from Douglas County that lay within Leavenworth County's boundary lines. They had 95 people vote, 94 qualified, and 1 provisional. Linwood Community Building. This consists of the city of Linwood plus 3 different school districts in that polling place. Had 206 people in the poll book, 205 were qualified with 1 provisional. West Haven Baptist Church, which is Stranger, had 85 people vote, 84 qualified, 1 provisional. Stranger Township Fire Station, which is Walnut Stranger, had 94 people vote, 94 people qualified. We then go into the city of Tonganoxie. The city of Tonganoxie had our highest turnout. They had almost 21%. So in Tongi North, we had 339 people vote, 337 qualified, 2 provisional. In Tongi South, we had 250 people vote, 247 qualified, 3 provisionals. Our last polling place in the county is the admin building at the fairgrounds. They had 241 people vote, 239 qualified, 2 provisionals. Now, we'll go ahead and look at our write-ins. The city of Linwood, for this election, elected their mayor, which someone did fall for mayor, so they did receive that position. They had 3 city council positions open and no one filed. So we went directly by the write-ins. And our 3 highest write-ins were Kimberly Renshaw, she received 25. David Denham received 22. And James Blankart received 17. So we will offer those 3 positions to those 3 top vote getters. We did have several people that were written in, but those were the 3 top ones. So.
Well, that's not bad. I got 9 out of 16.
There you go.
So.
In the city of Easton, we had 5 council positions available. Yeah, we had 5 available, 3 had candidates file, and so there was 2 positions that did not have anyone file. Our 2 top vote getters in the city of Easton is Shannon O'Donnell Hadley, receiving 19, and Sunshine Trader, receiving 14. So we will offer those 2 vacant, or those 2 empty positions to those write-ins. There are other write-ins always throughout the county, but nothing that was substantial compared to the votes that they received from being on the ballot. I do want to mention one other write-in. Angela Lester filed a write-in campaign for Leavenworth City Council. She did receive 20 votes, and she will be included on the certificate of election that I sent, that she was filing a write-in campaign. So. In the last one that we want to look at is voters at the courthouse. So we had 962 people that voted either early voting at the courthouse or by mail. And that does balance back. We had 348 that returned the ballots, and then 900 and we had 962 altogether. 614 voted in-house. 348 were returned by mail. So that is how the vote breaks down as far as that goes. Now, before we do Big Stranger Drainage and Lene, we do have 52 provisionals of the ones that we referred to. Out of the 52 provisional, 38 were qualified. They were previously registered, possibly went to the correct polling place, so they were qualified. We had 14 that were not qualified. The not qualified were due to the fact that they were not previously registered, which you have to be previously registered in order for a provisional to count, or they moved out of the district that they were currently in, where no portion of their ballot would count. What I'm going to do, out of the 38 provisionals that we have, we will pull those. We will run them through our scanner upstairs, and I will bring up a new report that shows the totals, and that will be the number that we use to certify this election. I don't think out of the 38 provisionals that are qualified, it's going to make any difference in any of the races that we have previously looked at.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
These people are aware that they have a provisional ballot.
Yes.
Has there been any of them that have come forth and questioned that at all? Where I'm going with this is we're, and I don't mind being asked to judge and vote on something that has significance, but if there's no change in the ballot, they haven't said, hey, my vote can't, and well, it would have counted for nothing because your person lost. I'm just wondering, is there any way that can be shorted?
I've seen
for something to think in the future without an answer now.
Well, each one of these folks that do a provisional fills out a new voter registration card. So they are always registered correctly for the next election. And that is very important when it comes to looking at provisional ballots. The other, when someone fills out a provisional ballot at the polling site, they are handed a statement giving them the right to call in to our office to see if their vote was qualified or not. Out of the 14 that were not qualified, it's just as important that they also have filled out a new voter registration card. And we follow up with each one of our provisionals, whether it's qualified or not qualified, to make sure that they will be qualified for the next election.
So, but this is something I would like for you and staff to look at, you know, to come up and talk about 38, 14 that have maybe some, I don't know what kind of value. Everything has value. It's just that it's in the eyes of the beholder. But to me, that is probably a little bit less significant compared to if it had 98% of all of the women had a thumbprint on the ballot, you know, as happens in the Far East.
I think that every vote is important, and so...
But if they know, I mean, they know now that we're going to vote.
They took the interest to go and vote.
Yeah,
and that is very important, because a lot of people did not take the interest to go to vote.
Yeah.
So, in my eyes, every single vote, provisional, straight...
I'm not saying short-circuit your aspect.
I know, I understand that, but...
time has value, except for maybe civil servants. Time has value. And I classify this, if we're going to start relying on the administrator to the intent that I would like to see us rely on the administrator, then to be concerned, you've done all the value that you can do to those people, other than they're going to see that we voted to whatever it is we're going to vote on, and nobody's going to know that they had a provisional ballot unless they run an ad in the Leavenworth Times. I had a provisional ballot, and everybody voted, and my ballot was approved. Now, I'm going to admit in my article that it had no significance. I'm wondering, is there not some way that it can be shortened so to remove, show that they have significance, that they voted. We upgraded their process But if not, it's no big deal. I don't think the world's going to close down because of my thought process.
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with the administrator or whatever. I think that the law, when provisionals were put into effect, is exactly what you're talking about. It's giving the people the right to make their voice heard. And just like the opportunity that they have to check with our office to see whether it was qualified. If a voter calls and asks if your vote was qualified, we tell them the exact reason. If it wasn't, we tell them the exact reason. It's not something for the election workers to do on election day. It is their duty just to get them registered and give everyone the right to vote. And that's the biggest thing is no one should be turned down their opportunity and right to vote. So,
And I'm not saying to deny that.
No.
I'm just saying,
I think we're doing everything we possibly can.
can it not be lessened to allow us to have the time? Should we now send this to the state and they evaluate it? Because now it's getting real, and then we'll send it to the federal government.
Well,
and
no,
they'll
I think
evaluate it,
it's-
So everybody's vote is important.
I think that it's on a local level, and it is important. I think when we're training 200 election workers, and that's exactly what we do, that everybody's right is just as equal, everybody's trained on these provisional, and it really stays at a local level, because we are the one that's going to complete this process and make sure that these voters are correctly qualified the next election.
Okay.
All righty. I'll go down and do that, but before we do that, we might as well look kind of quick at Big Stranger drainage and Lenape drainage. Big Stranger drainage, we had 3 people. It's a board of directors, and I had 3. There's currently 3 positions. This is voted on every 4 years. Thomas J. Flynn filed, William T. Norman, and Edmund J. Tice. Those were the only 3 that filed. They did receive enough votes to continue to be on the board of directors for Big Stranger drainage. We also have Lenape drainage, which, well, first, Big Stranger goes throughout the entire county. So there were several polling places out there that had those ballots. Lenape drainage is in Sherman Township. We had 3 people filed: Tom Kelly, Stacy Schmidt, and Mark Tinberg. They did receive enough votes to be current for that board of directors. So these board of directors are also certified through the Secretary of State's office as all the candidates that filed. All right, unless you have any other questions, I'll go ahead and let you proceed with the election. I will go down. We will run the 38 through our scanner, come back up with some new numbers, and you can certify. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
So we need to adjourn out of the Board
You
of
will have to
Canvassers.
adjourn out.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay, we return to regular session. Has commissioners had a chance to look at everything that's on the consent agenda?
Yes.
I think I have just a couple of questions,
Okay.
and I think it was on the minutes. Well, one of them was, looking into the pros and cons of the roundabouts, where I'd done a motion, or requested the county administrator, and everybody sort of agreed that we could do that. And the other one was buying the ambulances. I've heard several people, when it comes to the budget, say, we've got the money to do it. And I always ask the question, is it in the budget? That was $312,000. If it stays at $156,000 per ambulance, so that's 312, might get a good deal. Have we come up with how, you know, he said later, there may be some other way to resolve temporarily, how to resolve how we're going to handle the lack of ambulances in the meantime. Did we come up with an answer to that, or is he still working on it?
He's still working on that. I mean, that conversation was Thursday.
Right.
Friday, we were closed.
True.
So we have not had a chance, Jamie and I have not had a chance to discuss that.
We don't have Saturday and Sunday? Oh, okay. Excuse me. We don't work Saturday and Sunday. I was. Okay. Other than that, I guess, just take a look at the agenda for next week. Nothing there. Check register. Nothing. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Was there a second on that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
We got a second.
I did.
Yeah, Commissioner Holland.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Klemp, you'd made a statement about consolidating some services and,
Yes.
and combining that. Sometimes it takes me a little time to process what you say.
Takes me time too. to process.
Okay, well, in my defense, I never know what you're going to say. But I understand what you're getting at, and I mean, I know the big picture is to save tax dollars. And Public Works, I think Bill Green started consolidating departments. I believe we took noxious weed and road and bridge together. And then later on it became buildings and grounds, fell under the umbrella of Public Works. And then later on down the line it came survey department, and then solid waste, I think, came after that.
Right.
Which I think is working well. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I do too.
It was a good move, you know, especially when 2008 rolled around and all of a sudden everybody's home values were dropping, and so were our tax collections. We had to do some consolidating, and it was all for saving money. And since then, Mike Spickelmeyer started doing these salt bids for all the cities. The county does that. It takes Leavenworth, Lansing, Basehor, Tonganoxie. We do some of that. I think we have shown in the past that it's maybe a little slower than you would like, but I would like to see something big like health insurance be.
Oh, we've tried that.
No, I'm talking about like with the city of Leavenworth, city of Lansing, city of Tonganoxie. No, I'm talking about health insurance, our big ticket item we have here.
I'd agree.
That, that we would get together with City of Easton, City of Linwood, Tongi, Basehor, Lansing, Leavenworth, and we have all one municipal county government health insurance policy to see if we could all pool together and get a good rate.
Well, that's not a big problem because there's no TV. When you merge the police with the sheriff, now you've got TV problems.
I understand, but the county's demonstrated in the past it has have a willingness to consolidate and do some merging. But I'd like to see some of it explored.
You want to add that to the list?
Yes, sir, I did.
Add that to the list.
But like I said, Just wanted to know, taken a little while to process where you're going. I do know the big picture is trying to save as many tax dollars as you can. And so with that being said, do you have anything to add before we close this meeting and go to our next one?
Well, some of it will probably come up as we go through some of the thought processes. You know, like when we get into Public Works, I have some questions.
Okay, well, that'd be our next meeting.
Yeah, so I just didn't bring them up at that time, you know, when they're in the frame of mind of listening to what I have to say.
Okay. Commissioner Hall, do you have anything before we close this meeting?
No.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the first session.
So be.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
Aye. All right, then we'll call the second session to order. And we'll start off with Public Works. David, Sarah, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good.
David say aye? Or Sarah? You said you were doing good or something, but I didn't hear Dave say. You all right today?
Great. Great.
So I'll go ahead and kick off our quarterly report for Department of Public Works. First item is the sales tax projects. The 147th Street project is currently, Rural Water District number 1 is finalizing their relocations according to their most recent schedule that they've given to us. The 17th is when they should be completed or when they let us know that they're done. Based upon the delays, our contractor has re-evaluated the start date for mobilization, and that will be in the very beginning of March, late February. Completion date is still holding at 11/31 of 2018. Our budget right now is $8,434,585, and that is below our previous estimates from when the sales tax was presented back in 2015. I have no RBAs at this time, and DVP, would you like to give the legal update?
Commissioners, I'd like to combine several items in my brief report to you. First is all eminent domain proceedings are completed, fully completed with respect to 147th Street and McIntyre. With respect to Eisenhower, your team is out discussing that matter with the property owners. Sarah, we have a significant portion already signed up. What's the current count on that?
He's jumping ahead,
I'm
so
sorry.
1 second. We have Eisenhower Road at approximately 74% complete as of this morning, 71% when this report was conducted.
Which, Commissioners, I think speaks highly of the work being done by your staff on that. The long shot of that figure is that there will be fewer, if any, I would call it contested eminent domain proceedings as part of Eisenhower. The goal being that we don't really wish to litigate against our own citizens, but for eminent domain, we are sometimes required to do so. I'll keep you updated on that. With respect to the 2 industrial parks, reports have been submitted by the City of Tonganoxie and Leavenworth, and I apologize, I'll get those to you, but both the City of Leavenworth Industrial Park and the Tonganoxie Industrial Park are proceeding. As you drive by, either in Tonganoxie or Leavenworth, you can see the work being done on that. So that's continued. Commissioner Holland raised an issue that I think needs to be kept in mind is the ballot question that was used to allow the citizens to choose to tax themselves for the sales tax does have language that specifies the use of those sales tax proceeds, and part of that use is economic development. Now, economic development is a very broad term, and we need to keep that in mind. It does have its limits, and as time goes by, you need to keep that in mind. And when I say limits, they're very broad, but sales tax collection throughout the county are strong. I'll try to provide a report to you from the Treasurer's office and the Clerk's office, but the citizens should be aware that their choice of voting to tax themselves through sales tax is generating funds to provide additional public services both now and in the future. At this point in time, I don't have any complications to bring to you. We are in the middle of negotiations with Consolidated Rural Water District Number 1 for the McIntyre project. We have requested that they enter into an agreement for a liquidated damages clause for a completion date, as well as public bidding. Provided that to their board of directors, and we'll report back after they've had a chance to possibly accept those terms.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'd like one question for Sarah. I was approached by a citizen at the last meeting, and we had a conversation in my office, and he was part of the PRP program, and he was asking me if part of the PRP program can be a part of the sales tax program on roads, and I believe it could be. Do you
Secondary road, I think, would be what.
Right. And he was wondering why there was roads going ahead of his road on the PRP program.
I guess I would need to know specifically which road. I can talk about what our PRP program is here on item 4.
This would be
does that have
Coffin
some-
Road that he was referencing.
Which one?
Coffin.
I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Currently, the PRP program is set up for low-volume roads, and currently, we're using sales tax money to focus more on higher-volume traffic roads. So right now, we are not, there's nothing, no plans to use sales tax money on low-volume.
But that's not how the sales tax went. It was for secondary roads.
Correct, and so far, up to this point, we've chosen to focus more on the high-volume gravel
So
roads.
you're saying it doesn't make any difference what the voters say, it's what you're
Yes.
going to do.
Commissioner, that's not what I said at all. I said right up till now, we are focusing more on higher volume roads with the sales tax money. The list that was presented last week was high volume gravel roads.
And he was very upset about that because his road, Coffin Road, is quite a ways up the list.
We were requested to look at roads based upon their priority, and the priority as documented for roadway projects is volume as well as the maintenance cost for that volume, and those were the reasons why certain roads were presented.
Well, like 182nd, it wasn't even on the PRP program a year ago.
Correct, and it's a high volume road now, so it wouldn't even qualify for the PRP program.
So how did we determine it was a high volume road? Because I look on the PRP program and it's not even listed on their road count.
Correct, it was 2007, I believe,
07.
was when it was on there, and it got dropped for whatever, I don't know what reason, it got removed from the program.
I don't either.
So it came back up earlier this year, last year, I don't remember, it was earlier this year. So we did a traffic count on it, and it was over 400 cars a day. So it's a high volume traffic, high volume road.
Are those high volume, are they still secondary roads?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because Bob, you mentioned secondary roads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so we chose
So-
to focus
so-
on the high traffic.
Okay.
So moving
It
back to
wouldn't
the,
matter if 180 seconds of PRP or not, it's over the 400 cars a day. There's 537, 500 something.
I don't remember the exact number, it was,
So it's not considered a low-volume road.
Right.
You have to fix it.
No, you don't have to.
Don't have to.
Okay, we could put a bunch of signs up that said this is a high, over 500 car a day road,
But that's
drive
not-
5 miles an hour.
No, we
That
changed
that
the
was
pol-
not the sales tax. We voted on the sales tax to do
We
secondary
can change the
roads.
policy. We can do that. I heard the administrator say that. We can change the policy, so, but it is,
You can change policy, you can't change state statute. I
Right.
believe
It
Commissioner
wouldn't
Smith
make
is
sense
responding to it.
to go do a road that's got 100 cars a day and then not do a road that's got 500 cars a
I
day.
don't know if we can't change state statute. States change federal statute, so there, you know, we can test that in court, spend all the money we get on testing that in court, you know.
How many months you say you were going to?
I don't think that would be a good idea, Mr. Clem.
You think you could get that done in 15 months?
I can, yeah, I can get that.
All right.
My
I don't
question
think you'd
is-
even get to court on that.
Say again?
I don't think you'd even get in court on that.
Well, yeah, we're insignificant. I think that was, who was it said that? That was Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Government aren't working for the taxpayer. What can we do to have the governments work for the taxpayer other than their retirement, their medical, and all the BS that they get? And we don't want to go there because there's a lot of BS there. My question on these 3 projects, some of them could have been done, in fact, maybe all of them, without utility relocation.
I agree.
Now, I don't think
I agree.
I'd have to
Eisenhower could
disagree
have been, but
with
the
that.
others could have been.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that would have been possible.
And not have a, 40-mile-an-hour speed limit design or something.
Well, that
Even
doesn't matter
with
anyway.
40
Nobody goes
miles an
speeding
hour,
over
we
it.
need
Yeah.
relocation.
Right. I'm
So-
saying you'd have to get it down to 20 miles an hour.
What about 207th Street? Why couldn't it be done as it was? Because it's now done, but it was done to ASCII standards. Did it really need to be done at ASCII standards?
I would need to look at each roadway individually and document the standards and come back with why each one of them
Yeah.
required relocation.
There's
I'm not
all-
able to answer
There's all
that.
regulations that you can impose that says, well, we got to do this, because if you look at 147th, utility relocation estimate, I'm going to say 950,000 up to 1,250,000. And site acquisition, 700, I don't know why those figures are backwards, but it's down to minus 108. But that's still a lot of money. We're talking about $1.5 million to, say, $2 million for those 2 portions of the project that could have been used for other roads, secondary roads with low count, PRP, and if you go into McIntyre, it's the same thing. There's a lot of money that's being spent.
Well, please note that utility relocation, a very large majority of that is water line, which we've discussed multiple times that there was not a way for us to not relocate the water line.
They're in private easement.
If it just graded and chip and seal, wouldn't have worked.
Not for that road count, no.
Not for that what?
Road count,
Road
vehicle.
So it's a policy that the board has made that creates a little bit of the problem.
I wouldn't say it's policy, it's more of the engineering guidelines on the appropriate material to put down for specific traffic and counts.
Who set that, those guidelines?
ASHTO.
Didn't they
usually.
vote on it up here? Didn't they vote on it up here?
No.
No.
The recommendations on the roadway surface and the type is based upon engineering guidelines and principles.
Engineering guidelines, where does that come from?
I could look up the specific one, most of them come
Name-
from
name the-
ASHTO Green Book is one that we
There you
utilize
go.
often.
Where are they located out of?
They're nationwide.
Nationwide.
Federal
Doesn't necessarily mean
organization.
it's going to work for Leavenworth. Doesn't mean, just like the vote count, okay? We had what percentage, and we're just in the average. No, doesn't anybody realize what Leavenworth County is? First state in the territory, or the first city in the territory, and the first city in the state. We don't go by what everybody else does. Johnson County is insignificant. Douglas County is insignificant. We weren't too smart back in the day when we chose a prison over 29,000 eaters, were we? They're down there eating and buying clothes that have holes in the legs, selling for way more than mine that are put together. And so I'm saying Leavenworth should be the guide. We don't have to go by, and I'll never remember that name, I call him Ashloff, I don't know why. I'll never remember that because I don't like us adopting the same way the city does, California rules and regulations. We adopt them all the time because somebody out there puts out this big book that's the golden book. And I read the golden book and there's nothing in there about roads. Because they had to walk the roads and ride on an ass.
Commissioner, I
As
think
professional engineers, I can tell you though that we're not implementing
Yeah.
California standards in Leavenworth County. We're implementing proper standards for the safety and the well-being and maintenance longevity for these roadways.
So we slow the speeds down. People have said for years, you're going to live out in the county and drive your BMW or your Cadillac, then you ride on that road that's there. When the time comes, we just can't go out and do all the roads. It'd be nice to do all the roads. And Coffin Road was on that report that nobody can find. Isn't it funny how things disappear? Nobody can find. And I don't know, has the clerk found that list? There were 23 items on there of who was qualifying for PRP, and there were a couple that were 100%.
I believe that was left in your inbox. Did you not receive
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
Yeah.
So why are we going by that also? We're not going to reincorporate them back in?
For, I'm sorry, I'm not, for the sales tax money or for?
Yeah, for
PRP
any money.
projects?
I don't care. They qualify.
Up till now, we've chosen to focus on high-volume roads.
I
for sales
understand
tax
that.
money. If the board would like to go a different direction, then we can revise the list that was
Like
just
to,
approved last
just
week.
like to bring them in occasionally, the ones that were at 100%.
We have two that are on the PRP list that are currently being designed.
Well, I would like to make a comment on that. The reason that the PRP program is not going forward is because Commissioner Graber and Commissioner Bixby did not approve the budget for the PRP program.
Yeah.
I voted for it, but they
I know that.
voted against it.
I know that, so.
And that's why it's not done. But in their behalf, they were thinking, oh, well, we can use the sales tax money to get these roads done. But now all of a sudden, they're pushed aside.
Yep.
And
that's not necessarily good.
No, it's not good, but when you talk about the death of common sense, Commissioner Klemp, it's just common sense to fix your higher traffic roads first.
That's true.
But at the same time, these folks did what they were supposed to do in getting the right-of-way donated and signed up under the current program at that time.
At that time.
They shouldn't be ignored either. You're absolutely right, but.
And they don't need to go through the process again. Those that were at 100%.
No, they should not go through the process
But
again.
they've sold, some of them have sold their land, and, you know, it just.
That's why we're changing how we're doing things.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
To address problems like
And
that.
then this may be a budget question or issue. When we budget, we need to maybe put money aside for the PRP that was 100%
Right.
before we change the policy and put traffic count in there, which traffic count should have probably always been in there.
if I'd known we were going to change that, I
Right.
would have pushed harder than I did, but I'm only one vote.
I know it, and like you said, you've got most of your roads paved up there.
Well, let's bring-
No, I don't have most of my roads paved.
You're only lacking 150 miles, we're 215 behind, so we need to get 50 miles done in the third
Now you're
district
gonna
just to
pick on
catch
me
it.
'cause I don't
Also, it's
have
now
problems.
my miles, your miles. and-
Yeah, you know,
But-
third district, the
but
homes
I
are
looked over
increasing in
the-
value, so we need
I did want to bring up one more thing.
Yes, sir.
You brought it up a long
All right.
time ago.
Uh-oh.
When some give land and get nothing, and others we're buying them out. I agree, there's something wrong with that. You give your land, and I don't give mine, I get paid,
And I don't.
but we at least ought to give a letter of merit, or some kind of, you know, a special award, something for people that are willing to give and not always wanting to take.
They get a tax deductible donation slip like you'd get for
Now that, I don't know if
Goodwill.
that qualifies, but that's a good idea.
Well, they're donating to the public,
that's
to
a
the
good point.
government, so.
Waive the
Don't get
taxes for
something.
the year. Go ahead.
No, Commissioners, in the event that eminent domain proceedings are either imminent or have been started, there may be tax consequences to the property owners to avoid capital gains on their property that the county acquires, but that's about as far as we can go.
Yeah, no. We could just pay them for the land, couldn't we?
But Commissioners, there are certain citizens who, I'll use the phrase, step up to the plate and when requested, do donate additional right-of-way for county projects, specifically road projects, and that's to be commended.
It is.
There are others who don't, but that's not to say they're a lesser citizen. But I find it heartening when citizens do volunteer to donate land for these projects.
That's very good, Dave. I like what you said there.
That's why it's an attorney.
Not lesser, you're still citizens, thank you. Okay. So somehow I think we need to have it in the back of our mind, looking at it, saying, at least a thank you. Something that shows that we really appreciate, appreciate audit work. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right, so McIntyre Road. McIntyre Road is currently being potholed and surveyed by Lino Weaver Construction. And the County Rural Water 1 District agreement has been reviewed by U3, documented with DVP, and then submitted to the district at their last meeting, which was last Tuesday. They'll be going through legal review and get back to us by their next meeting in December.
Excuse me, do you see a delay on that project because of the water line also?
Potentially. Yeah. We're managing that with Lino Weaver. That's why they're potholing, to see exactly the locations of specific water lines and areas that they know they can begin working now.
Can we put a sign up there that says, "Don't blame the county"? It's sort of like,
Blame these individuals.
yes, it's sort of like there's a whole bunch of things that take place. Well, it's like paying your sewer bill and your water bill in the city of Leavenworth, okay? I don't pay my sewer bill except maybe once a year, once every 2 years. Because they're telling me they're going to shut off my water if I don't pay my sewer bill. The average person out there doesn't know that they are two different entities. They have their own boards. The sewer board, not sewer board, that's city, but the water board has its own elected board, okay? So they're going to shut off my water because I don't pay my sewer. Now, I go in once a year because I know they're short of funds, and I give them the check for a couple $100. But it's amazing the education that people do not have. They think they know something, and they haven't been privy to it all to know that it isn't the commission that necessarily that creates all the problems. It's water board, the water boards, it's utilities, it's maybe an individual homeowner that doesn't want to give up the land, got to take it to court. It is a massive problem, and that's what I see my 14 months in being here, is trying to eliminate some of that and educate the population to know that there's a lot of involvement to government, not necessarily good, okay? So that's another one for the day. Thank you.
Eisenhower Road. Eisenhower Road, the design is ongoing. We're at our 95% options. We have B&Ps as well as the most recent request to look into the roundabout as to outstanding items. Property acquisition began on September 28th, and we are currently at 71% complete at the time of this report. So we're making great progress for the 1+ month. The complete overall project is, we consider it in a 95% complete range. Utilities have begun their preliminary designs. They'll finalize their designs and be ready for relocation upon the completion of right-of-way acquisition. So our budget as of this last report is we've spent or allocated $4,029,842 to this project.
When will we be too late for the roundabout? If we're going to do that.
Here for now.
Bidding, I believe, when we finalize all items and prepare for bid. So now is a good time to reopen it as you guys requested.
I'm going to give these to the administrator, and I've added some to it. And I also reviewed some other information that was on the internet. These are pros and cons to a roundabout. I'm going to give these to the administrator, and he can put them, they're in by projects. Kansas in there, recommendation from all over, and Bob mentioned the other day, he said, he asked the question, he was the only one to ask about a roundabout, and you know why? Anybody know why? Everybody down in Kansas City has a roundabout. They're not concerned. And it's a beautiful location for Leavenworth's first roundabout. A beautiful location. We've talked about it with staff, you know, up at Eisenhower and DeSoto. Don't know. We got a lot of closure there. I don't think the cemetery would be hard to deal with, and the people on the southeast corner. But you're getting into the northwest, well, I'm sure that gas station would like to be bought out, and I'm not interested in that. And then you got the bank there. But this is a beautiful location for a roundabout, and not because, you know, I've gone a roundabout, because there's one in there that comments it's good except for certain people because they don't want to adapt. But I'll tell you what, if they're in an intersection and they collide or somebody runs in and kills them, they would have wished they would have adapted to it because it's a beautiful location. So, but we don't have to wait a year or 14 months, do we?
No, you can study it now.
No, I can do a motion.
Well, yeah, you can do a motion.
Then we put in a roundabout there. Has Leavenworth come back with a reply?
Is that a motion?
It's coming.
Okay.
I don't know if Sarah has had a chance to even discuss it with their public works yet or not, but
No. We
I haven't-
have meetings scheduled with them.
they've scheduled a meeting, so we have.
There has never been has there been an engineer study on that intersection?
Yes.
There is one?
We have preliminary draft of a roundabout design in that
Right.
location as well.
I've seen it.
What do you
With
mean by-
with a recommendation.
What do you mean by engineering study?
Was there a traffic study done at that intersection to see whether it should be a roundabout or stoplight or stop
There was
sign?
They evaluated whether a traffic signal was warranted at that intersection,
Okay, there.
And it
It was
was.
not.
and it was not warranted.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to keep traffic flow. Another
Right.
good location
I am too.
is Lansing. Lansing out there at 4-H and DeSoto. Beautiful place for it. It's not crowding anybody yet. Once you build something, and you know, and another thing that brought up today, and I thought was a very good point, at Eisenhower and DeSoto, you got all those entrances.
Mhm.
Makes it hard.
Mhm.
So, but out there at 20th and Eisenhower, no, there's not many entrances there. At 4-H and DeSoto, no. I enjoyed the teardrop approach. You know, Bob, I think you questioned it, or was it Dennis, about McIntyre and Highway 7. How do we get that traffic in there? And they had a teardrop over the highway, and it was a teardrop roundabout. I thought, oh my God, that's great. Solves a lot of problems. And you're not merging traffic into 773 to get over into the other lane to do a U-turn to go back to the, but it all has to do with money. So, but, so when can you have a thought process back to us? What's the earliest, or do you have it already?
Now, we're still,
Please provide us 2 weeks to get back to you on that.
Say again?
Can we have 2 weeks to get back to you on that, please?
Can you live with 2 weeks?
I can live with 2 weeks.
Bob, can you? Okay.
And that give the chance for the city to have some input?
Well, I would have already had an input. They didn't, you know,
I
have we
would
had
too.
any inputs to the things that I've mentioned?
Who's paying for this?
Well,
Taxpayers.
That's right. Have we had any inputs?
the only thing I'd like to have addressed on the roundabout is about the New Lawrence Road to the south. How much traffic will be using that? Does it need to be an even amount of traffic at each intersection to have, to justify a roundabout, or, I
No,
mean,
I can answer that one
All
now.
right.
No, there,
I
it
can
does,
answer that.
it does
I
not
know where roundabouts
require.
are that don't have, that have a dead end going out the other way.
okay.
Yeah. There's
What
no
subdivision in
requirement for
Johnson County is
equivalency.
that?
It's not a subdivision. It's down there somewhere in Clay County.
In Clay County?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
I know
There
what
are
you're talking
often
about.
roundabouts designed and installed that don't have all 4 connections or multiple connections. There's some 5 and 6 lane, or 5 and 6 outlet roundabouts.
I think,
at
I
different
think early
corners.
on in this discussion, maybe several years ago, the engineering study on a roundabout up there, and they come up with a design for this roundabout, and it was a very good design, I thought.
Yeah.
It really was.
So we will see you 2 weeks on Monday.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 4, participatory road program. The PRP process is kicked off in October with petition evaluations. The department has a form and process to complete these evaluations for file and future reference. This is in hopes that it minimizes all of these questions in the future that we're dealing with now of what happened and why were decisions made. So we have a fairly like a feasibility report. The process includes documentation of existing facilities, the validation of signatures, and the creation of the CAD roadway file. So it's kind of the preliminary layout of a file. To complete the process, we've listed it for you guys in our various steps. So a completed and validated petition would go to the board for the project to be included into the program. An incomplete petition would result in notification of the petitioner in order to go back and get any deficiencies that they may have. Permanent easements would be obtained and design budget would be proposals. So this is where we move in and we're going to record permanent easements right away once the road is on the list. So those items can begin. Upon recording, all the easements and design budget would be requested as part of the annual budget for approval by the board. The design completed along with the recording of the temporary construction and permanent drainage easements would be obtained during the design. So we're not anticipating getting any of the permanent drainage easements or temporary construction easements at that first recording. That's only with the design.
You know, PRP can still get out of hand again because you'll have, let's say, 3 or 4 come in with 100% land volunteer. Now, how do we, is it first come, first served, or is it first come with the most traffic? Are we going to?
Currently, the way we have it set up is the first come, first reviewed, first complete. And so if you can submit, and then all of a sudden you have deficiencies, you can't submit something incomplete just to hold a place in line.
Right.
That's what we're trying to eliminate.
Can we use, on the PRP program, can we use TIF money?
TIF money is for collectors and arterials.
So it's not available to PRP.
RIF
No.
would be.
RIF would be the.
RIF money is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we could use some RIF money if it had it in that district.
And I believe Dave has evaluated those particular options with RIF and other items that needed to be completed in each of those townships.
I think one of the things we also have discussed on the PRP program is the potential that a request, I don't want to call it a development, but a road that is requesting to participate on the PRP, that they may want to participate financially as well, so that if they would, if budget-wise it allows us to extend our budget, if they came in, so we have a lot of roads out there that are doing dust patching or whatever. If they wanted to participate in that way, where they would say, hey, or maybe it is a developer that wants to do something a little further off and say, hey, if we came up with 50% of that improvement, would that help us? That might help move them up in the list, the queue, I guess.
What is that in our policy today?
We've just discussed it, and we're trying to, as we update our policy, that we want
There's
to
Yeah,
no
do
we
that.
need to
policy.
get that in there so it doesn't look like we're changing rules.
Right.
It'd be part of the dust control type policy,
Okay.
which currently has an option to pay for services and have a cost share option. So the participatory road program has never had a cost share option as it is. So PRP would, I believe, remain similar, basically how it is now, but we'd be revising what that dust control or cost share option would be.
And would that also include the cost share being eligible for a benefit district to pay it back, or would they have to have the money up front?
Benefit district is a complete separate
Yeah.
process that we have to follow.
Yeah. So kind of there'd be three silos, if you will. You know, you have the PRP as it's written. You've got the dust control and the participation, the public-private
And
participation,
these
if
are
you will,
all
and then
roads,
you'd have the
maybe
benefit
have a couple
district.
100 cars a day, 150 to 200 cars a day, that'd be in PRP.
It has to be less than 400 vehicles.
I've got one more question. On a benefit district, they brought something up. That's where the landowners pay for the road design and everything, and they have to pay it back over a series of years as part of their taxes. This is kind of to force those that don't want it. Believe it or not, Mr. Clamp, there are people out there that bought their property on a gravel road and want to remain on a gravel road. And I understand. I mean, if that's what they want, that's what they want.
There's not too many though.
So one question I wanted to ask is on the benefit district, does that include like tearing out the fence and then putting it back where it's supposed to be, or is that just taking their land and paying for their land to them?
A benefit district can be utilized to do any portion of the project. If the county was going to participate, let's say we went to the program and the county was going to do half and the citizens along that road were going to do half. The issue is that just like we have to have 100% participation for the PRP program, there's a certain amount of participation that you have to reach to
But it's
be in a
not
benefit.
nearly that much participation.
And typically with a benefit district, you're issuing some kind of debt to finance the balance, and then that debt is paid off over time.
Right.
But you can use it for any portion of it. And then the people who are there have the option of paying their portion up front without paying it over time as well.
So you still didn't answer my question.
Can you repeat the question, because I thought
It can be included as part of
It
the
can be
project.
included in it.
Yeah, as Mr.
Because
Lawfrey said,
I had
anything in
a person
there could
ask me
be-
that one time, you know, I wouldn't mind it, but this gentleman was fairly elderly, and he says, I don't have the money, nor do I have the inkling to go out there and build my fence back. And he still had cattle, and I can see his point.
Fencing is very important
Right.
on Eisenhower Road.
To a couple property owners, it is.
Yes. Just thought I'd mention that.
It only has to be 3 bob wires or an electric fence, according to the state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the state's got to, but we can make it more severe than.
Right.
Or a better road, a better fence.
Better fence.
Yeah,
If you're in the city limits there.
yeah.
You've had cattle, you know what a good fence is.
Okay.
So upon design completion, construction budget would be requested as part of the annual budget. So you've got 2 basic budget years. One would be the design costs, and the other one would be the construction costs. So approximately 2 to 3 years from time of evaluation to time of completion is really what the PRP
And I
timeline
think that's
looks
the
like.
important thing, to get whoever you're, excuse me, Mike, whoever you're talking to, you got to keep the real estate out of this, real estate people. Because we're going to, no, I've heard that the road's going to be done. No. We need to somehow get the information, whether we have to write it down, that there's a process. So somebody that moves out there has that, and you were given this slip of paper that said, on this date, it may take 2 or 3 years, we do not know. But something has to, because it always comes back to bite the county. When I got there, they told me back in 1805 they were going to asphalt my road.
On all the documentation that we have in the office, as well as all the emails that we go out in the letters, it does state that participatory road program does not mean that you will get
Very good.
a road. It's based upon budget as well as just allocated funds.
Because that's
that are-
information that's very important to those people.
How
Or
many
to
years
us.
did you say?
Say again?
How many years did you say?
About what?
2 or 3 years? That before your road can get done?
Well, unless you're 207th and 182nd.
182nd Street, we're in 10 years on that one
We
right
need
now.
to go out there and have an opening on 207th, a grand opening. You know that? The history of Leavenworth County, it took us.
Well, not every road gets rebuilt twice before we pave it. Usually we only rebuild it once.
I love it.
That's
Okay.
all right.
But it makes
So-
a great north and south road.
Yeah.
If it's
That's
hooked
true.
up to something else.
Yeah. Eventually it will be.
Yeah.
So at this time, we've completed 2 evaluations, and none are able to be presented to the board at this time for inclusion. Wood End Road is 78% complete with 18 out of 23 signed parcels, and 174th Street was 83% complete with 20 out of 24 signed parcels. So evaluations are ongoing, and we'll report back in December, hopefully with some items to include.
Is this Wood End Road there off of County Road 1 to 24? Did you have traffic count up for the sunflowers?
No, because we had barricades.
Oh, okay. Well, I still think you'd have had a high traffic count with barricades up.
Item 5 is the social media report. Social media kicked off October 20th. There has been 7 informational posts, such as road closures, county facts, and project award announcements, in addition to 2 departmental job posts. Each post links relevant information directly, tags, and engages to the satisfaction of the department. The job posts have made it easy to get the word out of available positions while still funneling the applicants through the county page. This area, we believe, has been our most successful in the last 10 to 15 days. We've received 6 applications per position in 2 weeks, which typically receive 2, sometimes even less than 2, in 8 to 12 weeks. So overall, in approximately 3 weeks, we've reached 4,325 people. We have 68 followers, and we have 162 views.
Speaking of social media, every so often I talk to George Patton and Ollie Murphy. And how do we advertise for jobs to the veterans? Is there something that we do out openly, a veteran town, or do we just say, yeah, somewhere out there's something that says we ought to honor veterans for jobs? Or do we actually?
Well, we do advertise our positions on our website. We put them out on the Job Service Center here in Leavenworth. We post them there, and I know they have a very active veterans program there. I'm not sure if in our hiring process we have a point system where we allow extra points. I would have to ask somebody in HR that.
Why
Not
don't
to
we?
my knowledge. all
I'd have
the
to ask.
years
We
I've
may.
been
I
here.
just, I don't know
Would
if
you
we
look
do.
into that? Because
Certainly.
there is American Legion that is very active out at the VA Center. There's the VFW. Somehow, I don't like rules and regulations that are mouthed. Somewhere you got to back them up. How many do we have that come back or get out of the military that want to stay here? I don't know. A lot of the officers do because they get a job already lined up. So it's just a point. I could ask for a show of hands. How many veterans in here? Anybody want to read it? 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1 lady. I like lady veterans. That's good. They know what it's about. Okay, so if you'll look into that, and I know you will, I want to compliment you again. You've done very well on that list, follow-up list. I like it. Excuse me. I just want to talk long enough for Joe Herring to leave.
Oh.
Yeah. Now he's left, we can go faster.
No comment.
Good.
All right, we'll move on to the other divisions in Public Works. Solid Waste Department, through October, the usage of the transfer station has increased significantly compared to last year. Fees collected are up over 18%, and our landfill charge is up almost 35%. couple months ago, the board had requested input from the Solid Waste Committee regarding the recycle bins located in Tonganoxie. In your packet, you'll have the email that was sent out along with the responses that were received back. Most of the members of the committee did respond. The majority response was that the bins should be removed. The county provides recycling services at the transfer station for all county residents to use. The county is in essence subsidizing bins for a separate area of the county. The city of Tongi did indicate that they liked the bins there. I did reach back out to Tongi with some additional questions, but I have not received any response back. I did ask if they would be interested in maintaining the site, because that's one of our biggest issues, is just keeping the site clean. With a transfer station up here in Lansing, we don't have personnel down there on a daily basis to make sure it's clean. I did ask if they would be interested in helping fund the site, and I received no response from them.
Well, it is being used. I mean,
It's being abused too.
Yes.
When it's full, we dump our trash anyway. We don't take it home.
well, that's why we approved a third bin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's another company other than Waste Management that could handle that. We've got Honey Creek here that is our local business that's in the county. And we also got a new contract with Hams with getting rid of our solid waste. You know, I don't know if there's other options there. Or is it something that the county could purchase a recycling roll-off box or something that would have the slots to put stuff in so nobody could put trash in, that it'd be just strictly for recyclables. You'd have one end on it, have a top for plastic or something, cardboard. We used to have something like that years ago at the transfer station.
The city right out here has a good one. And
Yep.
that's what, it's unmanned.
Mhm.
You just go in there and they have slots in the rollback, and you put plastic in one and you put
Right,
glass in
right.
one.
The problem is you have a long bin, it doesn't, the trash doesn't get, you gotta have side entrances.
Right. And the county used to have one out there, and they used to pull it around to different cities once a month, I think, all. And
Well, I think.
it was on a trailer. It
I
wasn't
think
a roll-off box.
recycling's gotten so much more popular than it used to be back then.
Yeah.
Has got popular in the county.
These are rural residents that are using it.
Yeah, and abusing it. Well, we don't know, it could be somebody from the city.
It could be, but.
I don't know why they would, because they have trash pickup.
Right.
Well, it's not mandatory in Tonganoxie. They do not have mandatory recycling. I think when we first started this, we thought it was mandatory there, but it's not. It's on a voluntary basis in the city limits. So, and they have less than 25% of their customers that signed up for it. So there could be a significant number of people from Tonganoxie, but they're still county citizens.
But I had to hire my guy come out.
Well, they still have to pay for trash pickup.
Right.
They just didn't have to pay for recycling.
Yeah, but out there where the 3 bins would be, we're paying for that, everybody's paying for that.
Right,
So-
right. But, I mean, I'd like to see something that's like 1 week in Tonganoxie, 1 week in Linwood, 1 week in Easton, something that the residents that are quite a ways away from the transfer station. My Baser's got their own, correct?
Baser has mandatory recycling, and the school district in Baser also has recycling bins at each school.
Okay.
So you're saying go back to the way we had it there one time, where there's no bins there, we just have a truck come around?
Well, we'd leave it. It'd be like a roll-off bin, and you'd leave it for a week in one town, move it to another town the next week, something like that. I mean,
The only problem I see there is, who's to say it's not going to be abused in that 1 week?
well, that's why I said you'd have to get a regular recycle bin where you couldn't put trash bags in it and stuff like that. You know, it'd have to fit in the compartments.
What staff recommend?
Staff recommends removing the Tonganoxie recycle bins.
So that's the question.
Recycling is offered at the transfer station.
I agree.
Anybody here want to speak on that from Tonganoxie? Because I know there's a lot of people that use it. Yes, could you come forward?
Cecilia Pruitt, 21800 Parallel Road, Tonganoxie. Please don't remove it. I hadn't thought about speaking about this. Part of the problem we have right now, they're very small, two very small little bins. So I agree with Commissioner Smith, if we had a more proper recycled bins, that would help if they were larger. And I certainly, for one, am willing to take it to the city to see if, at a city meeting, to see if they would help pay on this. Honey Creek is who we use. At one time, I had thought that if we required recycling, that maybe Honey Creek would offer it to the county, and I don't know if that's true or not. Is that something we'd go through the city to see if they wanted to require recycling in the city? Or is that something the county?
Well, it said they have voluntary.
I think if the city offered mandatory recycling, obviously the usage would go up and at the local residents, and I think we would see ours drop out where it would be just the county residents. Then I think you'd see it drop off. So I don't know if I don't know if there would be a need for additional recycling other than the 2 bins that we have right now. But I don't know that the city has any interest in making it mandatory. I think that's the only way they would see an increase in participation.
Could we at least put a decision on hold and let us approach this with our city? I'll take it to the city meeting.
Yeah, that'd be prudent at this time. But you said BACC requires the residents to do the recycling?
Yes, it's mandatory.
Okay, and then who?
Lansing does too.
The school, who does that then?
The school district, and they were actually offering recycling before the city went to mandatory recycling. They have bins at each school you could go drop off, and they maintained those even after the city went mandatory. And I've asked the school superintendent down there on several occasions, did they see a significant drop-off? And they didn't. Even after the city went mandatory, they still see participation, because what you have is when people are moving, they have a lot of boxes. You can't fit that in your bin, so it's nice to run down to the school, the closest school, and drop off the boxes. That's a lot of what they get. But then they also have a lot of people who live outside the city limits that just bring their stuff in, and when they're dropping the kids off at school or on a weekend, they can go fill the bins. And I know the bins used to fill up really quick, and you just had to drive around to different schools to find one that was open. But now that they have the mandatory recycling, that's not as much of a challenge.
Lansing's got it, but Leavenworth doesn't. Leavenworth has the best pickup of trash of any place I've ever been in the country.
Because it's the city employees doing it.
If you have some colonel, major, I don't care what it is, or some civilian or anybody moves in and they have a block long of boxes, Leavenworth picks them up. Price is decent, and but they don't recycle them. They have it available, but they don't recycle. A lot of people still do.
I think they do offer some recycling at the, what is it called? The service center.
Service center.
Yeah.
They do offer some, but the people have to take it there.
So I just, we subsidize so much of the rest of the country. I don't like, personally, for I don't know, how many thousand do I have in my area in District 2, ever how many thousand I have subsidizing another part of the county. Again, with another subsidizing. So I would say we remove the bins. That's my motion, to remove the bins.
Don't we have a contract on these for?
Yeah, we have probably about 7 months remaining on a contract, approximately $3,200.
So we could, we have 7 months then to come up with another plan if we vote to remove them today?
Yeah, but we can invoke to remove it today when the contract ends, if there's not another plan in place.
Okay.
Would that be kind of
the plan in place might be the long bin with multiple slots, and then we find it doesn't work, and then you.
But my problem with the long bin is really not a problem with the bin.
You're right.
It's who's going to pay for the bin.
That's right.
And that's not gonna be cheap.
No, we just saved $10,000 on an audit this morning.
Well, I've got other plans for that,
I do too.
see?
But you guys got recycling. We don't.
I don't have recycling.
I don't pay my trash.
But I know, well, I'm just going to give you some history about when I was out at the Road and Bridge Department. We used to pick up a lot of trash that people would just throw out, and sometimes they would send a message when we'd raise the rates at the transfer station. You could always see an influx of trash along the side of the roads, and we spend a lot of money subsidizing trash pickup anyways. I don't know if you guys track that. When people go out and pick up trash, you got a code for that? We used to. We used to keep track of that. We pick up tires and boxes and wash machines.
I have done that along my road.
Right. But,
Personally.
But
Beer bottles.
Public Works does spend quite a bit of time out picking up trash alongside of the roads that people dump off.
And I bet they're still picking up trash today. I can remember I found trash in my driveway, and I called the lady, but in her 80s, and said, I know your grandmother wouldn't appreciate that, and I don't either. I'm going to get a hold of my grandkids, and we'll straighten this out, see? Her grandkids had taken her books and everything, dumped them in mine. So grandma resolved that. Can't beat grandmas.
Well, clearly there's a demand for recycling over there because it gets overused. I mean, usually the same day they empty it, it's full.
Right. And
The board had asked to add a third bin, and we put in that request, and for some reason, Waste Management never processed it. So if we continue to just leave it at 2 bins, it's going to continue to get overused, which means the dumping and everything else. Do we want to proceed with the third bin until the end of the 7 months? If we can get them to actually deliver it. I mean, we've ordered it, and we've inquired about it several times, they haven't delivered it, but if we could get the third bin delivered, is that something the board wants?
Bob's thought a little further. At the end of 7 months, we don't find some other way of paying for it rather than how many thousands of people paying for it, then they're gone.
I understand that. I'm just wondering, do we still want to get that third bin out there to try to alleviate?
See how it works.
We have already approved it.
Right.
But it's going to
I
cost
thought
us
it was
money.
already there.
Well, I did too, but it's not.
It's not.
So I don't know whether it's because
So
Waste Management's no
Are you
longer our
rescinding
trash
your
hauler.
motion then?
Say, no, I rescind it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion to remove the recycling bins at the end of the 7 months.
At the end of the contract.
At the end of the contract. And we have a second.
Yes. And I understand that if we don't have another program in place, then we'll
we can do
remove them
another
and it'll be
motion at
over
that
with.
time.
Okay. Because I really do want another program, but
Yeah,
I
I agree.
don't think we ought to be policing that area down there. They ought to police it themselves at least,
Well,
at the very least.
Well, they police a lot of things down there, so they can sure police this.
Yeah.
This is minute.
I think it gives the city, I guess, a time to
that gives
consider if they
City of
want to.
Tonganoxie, and I believe we have a new council member in here today, so I'm sure he can take that under advisement. And I'm sure you'll remind him how much money we have spent in Tonganoxie.
One of us will.
Okay.
One of us will.
You know,
Aye.
gosh, getting ready to call for a vote here, but, all right, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay. Don't worry, we're not gonna take the annex out, because we sure like you to drop your money off there.
That's right.
7 months, ladies. All right, appreciate that.
All right, moving on. Buildings and Grounds Division, the Justice Center roof is wrapping up. Should be done here in the next few weeks with that project. And the salt dome roof out at the county shop has been completed.
We're depreciating that now, the new roof. It will start being depreciated.
I believe that was the plan, yes.
Building a fund to replace the next one. So the next budget year, when everybody comes in, we're going to be cutting the mill levy rather than adding to it.
We cut the mill levy this last
Yeah.
year.
But you didn't cut that.
Cut that half. We got a quarter of it.
A quarter. That's What is that? How much is a mill today, dear?
About 600.
As I said, five something. I believe.
We're supposed to cut a half a mil.
Yeah, so we'll call it 600,000, so we still got 300,000 out there
Okay.
with left.
All right, and then
And we're buying 2 ambulances with that.
hopefully we got an insurance check on that one.
Yeah.
But Mr. Miller
I
has
bet it won't pay for the
depreciation.
ambulance, though.
No, but he had depreciation.
Yeah.
The amortization schedule is very important on major purchases.
Yeah, I think.
We've got to stay the course on that. So,
Okay.
all right, David, sorry to interrupt.
The county shop has patched and sealed approximately 90 miles of roadway this year. They're now currently preparing for winter weather, getting ready for those.
I hope you're doing that for nothing.
That would be nice, but probably not. Office remodeling is taking place out at the county shop. They removed the vinyl tiles from the floor, taking the old paneling down off the walls, removing all the data cables and utility lines back behind the walls. We did find evidence of termite damage, so that was being treated also. That project's moving along, hopefully be done by the end of the year with that.
I guess our pest contract doesn't allow for termite inspection? Because we do have a contract,
They
right?
sure spray around here.
Yeah.
Well, most of that building's metal and block, so there's,
Yeah. I'm surprised any bugs can live in it.
but there was
So,
definitely termite damage in that office area. Surplus property, the county shop has compiled a list of equipment that we'd like to dispose of. The majority of it will be auctioned off on Purple Wave. A couple items on the list will be scrapped. Your packet has a
Right.
list of the equipment.
Is that something we need to react to approve it, or?
Yeah, I need a
we just
motion
got to approve
to
it.
approve.
I think they, under surplus equipment, we've got a policy that it all goes the Purple Way.
Yeah.
That it doesn't, they charge a buyer's premium of 10%, so there's no cost to the county for us to dispose of the property to them.
You want a motion? Is that what-
I do.
Okay, you got a motion to approve the list as submitted for disposition of surplus equipment.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Through the end of the third quarter, all the budgets for all the divisions under Public Works are looking good for the year. Looking ahead at solid waste, due to the increase that we've seen out there, that budget will likely need to be amended before the end of the year. Other than that, the rest of them look like they should be.
You really don't have any control over that budget, really, when it comes to,
Right, and 35% increase in the landfill charges, so that's what's causing that.
right.
Personnel currently have 2 heavy equipment technician positions open. Both of those are due to retirement. We have 1 heavy equipment operator at the shop, and the heavy equipment operator at the transfer station actually was just filled pending pre-employment screenings.
How many veterans we got in there applying for that?
You know, honestly, I couldn't tell you.
Well, they're not qualified. you know.
Well, any veteran that applies usually submits a copy of their DD 214. And
That's true.
that's the experience I've had, any veteran applying for a job, always submitted that.
Yeah, I'll do some checking with some people I know if there's a place we could advertise these
Yeah.
to get more.
You know, driving that big truck down the street or where they're driving them with dynamite exploding, and they got a CD, they don't need a CDL. Isn't that amazing? But here, you need a CDL. Yeah, okay.
Well,
Thank you.
Yes, that you're overqualified for the job. Anything else?
Last item we have is just the update on projects. Bridge A32 is moving right along, should be reopened probably in the next month or so before the end of the year. 207th Street, as you're all aware, has been completed and is reopened to traffic. Do you have any questions on any other projects? Just
You did get 2 seal coats on 207?
yes, they got the second coat on, yes.
Should be good for winter then.
What day do you have set for the grand opening?
You want a ribbon cutting on 207th? We can do that whenever.
I don't want to go back out.
Oh, I'm going
But
out.
the next day it reaches
I got to work on it
7.
twice.
Very good.
All right, that's all we had today.
All right. Anybody have any questions of Public Works?
No,
Let's see if I got anything. I don't think I have.
I think you had plenty already.
Did I say something already?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's coming up. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Watch those roundabouts.
We're ready for Baser. There you go. How are you doing, Mr. Joseph?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'll be quick. We received a petition from the City of Basehor to annex 2 properties. One is the Basehor Linwood Middle School, which is located on the west side of 158th Street and just north of Kansas Avenue. It is approximately 74 acres. And staff is recommending that they annex the property. We don't see any problems with it. It's within the urban growth boundary, so it is perfect for annexation. And I think we have to deal with these as 2 cases. So case number 17-126 is the middle school annexation. And there's also a resolution that's supposed to be approved with this. We had some issues with the legal description, so we'll correct that and bring it to you on a later date. But you can approve the resolution if you choose to.
Okay. And are we taking the streets in front of the schools, correct?
Correct. The Connolly Street is out
Connolly
of...
Street?
Yes.
How about the traffic or the school zone signal? Have you taken that for maintenance on that?
I think you're referring to on 158.
I am.
When I talked to the city administrator in Basehor, they originally thought that they were taking 158th with this. We pointed out that they weren't, obviously. They had, as Mr. Joseph pointed out, they had some issues with their legal descriptions. So I think if that's something that the board wanted to
I do.
ask them to do, I think that they would probably be receptive to that. It would also then allow them to, their police officers to patrol that school's zone, because right now that's not, it's outside the city limits. So the 2 schools on either side would be in the city limits, but the 158th wouldn't. I don't know that we've evaluated that because it really wasn't part of their request, but I do know that if it's something that the Board of County Commissioners wanted to have them include, I think that we could probably convince them to do that.
I think that's something to ask about.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, I guess Mr. Lujan is the one that has to deal with it. When the school zone signal malfunctions, which it does from time to time, and you know, we're kind of late finding out when it actually happens because we're not driving that road every day, or it doesn't shut off and it's going all night long. I used to get some calls about that. And as far as our level of skill of working on it, we have to hire somebody to do it, because I mean, I could go over there and turn it off, but that didn't do you no good the next morning.
No.
You know, it needed to be on.
Well, you could go the next morning and turn it on.
Well, the sign guy did. Yeah, but like midnight, I'd go shut it off.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice if the city could take that light over, because like I said, they're there every day.
Do we want to make that, after we've asked nicely, do we want to make that, they have to take it over?
I'd rather just ask.
Well, you asked first, but you have to have...
Okay. I mean, yes, sir, Counselor.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, good morning. In response to Commissioner Clem's inquiry, I think that would be a separate matter. The findings to be considered for adoption by this board on both annexations are whether the proposed annexation hinders the economic development growth of the city requesting the annexation, the economic development growth of any other incorporated city within the county, or the general overall economic development and growth within the unincorporated areas of the county. You'll need to make those findings for both resolutions. But to follow up on Commissioner Clem's inquiry, I'm not certain if it could be required as part of this annexation procedure because the state statute enumerates the 3 criteria you have to respond to. But the commission could certainly request that that be considered as part of I think, a practical planning procedure both for the city and the county for urban growth.
Well, there'll be some other issue that will come along with Baser, and, you know.
Well, I just think Baser's public works staff
Yeah.
could respond to an outage of that signal or a problem with that signal quicker than we can.
I do too.
I think it's a safety issue.
Does
I think that's a good
Lansing,
idea.
Do they have somebody that can respond if you have a bad light, or do you have any areas where there are lights? Kim?
Contractors respond.
Contractors, see. But Leavenworth, they have a crew.
No, contractor.
Leavenworth? No.
Oh, Leavenworth.
Leavenworth.
Oh, Leavenworth. They have a crew.
See, and there's another consolidation area. See that? Leavenworth and Lansing working together, and they don't have all the...
Well, I'm sure there's training.
Baser and Tonganoxie.
I'm sure there's training that you can get people trained to work on their school zone signals, stuff like that. But we just never did.
Well, we shouldn't. We have one, Leavenworth. So we'll unite with Leavenworth.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up.
I'll contact the city administrator today. I know they're getting ready to approve their ordinance in a week, I think. So I'll try to contact the city administrator today. Well, he's sitting in the back, so I just contacted.
Trouble getting hold of him.
I didn't know he was here, so yeah, I'll see if that's something that I'll discuss it with him after the meeting and see if it's something that they'll consider.
Okay. So what we need now is a motion to accept Resolution 2017-27.
I'm going to give you a motion to...
No, there'll be a separate resolution from the county, so we need the next number.
We do have to have a public hearing.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll go, we're ready for the public hearing on this annexation. All right, we'll open up the public hearing for the Baser annexation. Anyone here for speaking in opposition of the annexation? Seeing none. Anyone speaking for the annexation? And we'll close this portion of the public hearing.
Now, do we have to have a public hearing on both parcels?
Correct, both separate. So
Okay. You want to do another public hearing now, or do you
No.
want to vote on this one?
We'll vote on this one. All right. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It would be most appropriate if you would make those 3 findings. The board motion could be that the board, having conducted a public hearing on the matter, finds that the proposed annexation does not serve to hinder the economic growth and development of the city of Baser, nor the economic growth and development of any other incorporated city within the county, nor the unincorporated area of the county.
That's what I
Your
said.
motion. Okay, that's your motion,
Yes.
Commissioner?
That's what, I agree, that's what he said, and that's what I second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. And voting.
Aye.
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 Becky, what number would that
Thank
be?
you, David.
2017-62.
So we'll need a motion.
I'll make the same motion.
Resolution 2017-62.
I'm going to second it, we're going to have a public hearing on it too.
No,
Yes.
No, this is the resolution.
that's still the first one.
Okay.
Once we approve it, we have to do a resolution.
Yeah.
Second.
Aye.
Voting, aye. Okay.
Aye.
The next item is, again, the same annexation for the Linwood Elementary School. It's located on the east side of 158th Street, just north of Kansas Avenue. We found out that it was appropriate for them to annex the location. It's still within the urban growth boundaries, and the public hearing is required, and also there's a resolution for this as well.
Okay. We'll open up a public hearing on the Baser annexation east of 158th Street. Anyone here to speak in opposition of the annexation? Seeing none. Anyone here wishing to speak for the annexation? Seeing none, we'll close this portion of public hearing.
Well, I'm going to do the motion this time.
Okay, you do it.
And it's number 2017-27, you agree? It's the motion I'm looking at.
We still have to go through the whole deal about.
That's the city resolution.
And I'm including in my motion to approve item 1, 2, and 3 of the qualifications to.
Can we do both of them together, or does the resolution have to be separate?
It should be separate.
Yeah.
It'll be difficult, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, you want me to do it now?
Yeah, you do.
It's 1, 2, and 3.
It's 1, 2, 3.
Well, I said 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, okay. So that's your motion?
That's my motion.
A second.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of this board, once again, and only to provide guidance, the appropriate motion would mirror the previous motion for the findings, and that would be that the proposed annexation of the city of Baser does not hinder the economic growth or development of the city of Baser, nor does it hinder the economic growth or development of any other incorporated city within the county, nor would it hinder the proper development and growth of the unincorporated area of the county.
And that's what Louis said.
1, 2, and 3.
What? It's basically,
You could reference additional, another document, yes.
1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
right.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
You're trying to make it difficult on me.
Yes.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Now we need a resolution motion.
Yes.
Motion to approve resolution 2017-63.
You did a motion? I'll second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready to adjourn and go to, oh, got one more thing.
Let's go ahead and go back in as the Board of Canvassers and make a motion to approve the November 7th city school general election of November 7th.
Okay, we need a motion to go back and
I'll make that motion.
Second.
voting. Aye.
Aye.
We are now the Board of Canvassers.
That's very good. So you want a motion to approve?
Approve the city school general election held on November 7th, 2017.
That's my motion, thank you. And we could start including those things on the agenda, either disapprove or approve.
Your hand is
We need a second.
There.
Yeah.
She wants you to sign
Commissioner
it.
Holland heard the motion.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Need a second.
Did you second it?
Yes.
All right. We got a motion and a second to approve the elections. Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, that's because, don't do this. Aye. Anywhere. I was going to say, that's how it used to be, but
While he's signing, have we, on your administrative weekly report, have we got any of those things? Any response like Genesis?
I would like to look at that also.
So you can put that on next week, but anything that's on here that we ever get done.
Yeah, that'll be on my weekly report, but also I did follow up on the Genesis. We're not receiving any points off for our carrot for it. There's about 50 employees that take advantage of it, so it's $15,000.
Can I,
It's something that
Get a copy of that document, because I used to get one on a monthly basis.
we had to ask for it. I do have a copy.
Yeah.
I can forward it to
Yeah,
you.
they quit giving it because, and I'll show you why.
So
I think
they
I know.
saved 25,000 today.
Because not enough usage.
Not
Well-
enough usage.
Okay.
Right.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that would be something that the board would have to consider if we wanted to.
Well, and I think part of the reason that Carrot doesn't give us any advantage on that is because I went out, well, I didn't go out there, but I went out to a government installation, and I asked them a question of how many times do you have to exercise per week to do you any good? And they said at least 4 times a week, preferably 5, but 4 times a week, and you'll get some advantage out of it if you exercise 1 hour. Some of the people were going out there once a week.
If that, yeah.
So that tells them that, oh, well, you got 50 people coming out there, but they're only coming out once a week. So it's not doing any good. So Carrot realizes that too.
Right. So, and we also already have enough points for other things in the Carrot program, but
Right.
It might be appropriate for the board to consider if they wanted to continue that, or if there might be a better usage of those funds as part of the incentives. You know, that's an employee benefit, so you could, if you want to use it there for some other purpose. But the recommendation will be at some point that I would like to give the employees who are using it a heads up that we're going to.
All right, got half of it used.
So we do have an area next door that we can put up sign-up times because it is used for other things. That's a reward over there. And so, you know, you put in some working out machines and
Oh,
so.
yeah.
But it's very hard.
Anyways, that would be something we'd bring forward. I'd want to give the employees a little bit of notice so they don't get, those who are using it.
Our family uses it almost consistently.
Yep.
I guess, are we ready to get out of the board of canvas?
I'll move to get out of the board of camp. You through with us?
I'm through.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll move to get out of the board of canvas.
Second.
Voting?
Aye.
Aye.
And we're back in regular session here. Are we ready to adjourn and go to the work session?
Yeah, I'd like, just like 5 minutes or
Yeah,
so
let's take a
between.
little recess here.
Yep.
At 10 after we'll start. All right, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, voting?
Motion to
Aye.
adjourn.
Yeah. And then we're gonna do a work session.
Oh, okay.
No, we're not done, Commissioner.
Oh, I was going to say, man.